Good evening and welcome to Unity Connection. My name is John Christmas. I'll be your host this evening. Unity Connection is sponsored by the Unity Temple Church of Christianity that's located in downtown Denver in Capitol Hill, 1555 Race Street. That's at Race and Colfax. And tonight I'd like to talk about that one illusion, the super illusion, the big illusion, and it's going to be the illusion that ends all illusions. And this illusion is called forgiveness. Actually, there is absolutely nothing to forgive. But until we see there's nothing to forgive, we have to practice forgiveness. And forgiveness is an illusion just like all illusions that we have here in this three-dimensional experience we're having, except that forgiveness is an illusion that leads out of illusions. And also forgiveness, the illusion of forgiveness is the same illusion as the illusion of healing. So if we look at ourselves from the viewpoint that we can either be an illusion of fear or an illusion of forgiveness, then we can see that as we choose to be an illusion of forgiveness, that is the last illusion of ourselves that we'll hold. Beyond the illusion of forgiveness, the illusion of ourselves that we'll hold will no longer be an illusion, because what we'll do is we'll know ourselves as we were created. The trouble we're having with our lives right now is we don't remember who we are. And so we have forgotten how we were created. And we learned how to be something else. And this something else that we learned how to be is a thing of fear. And it's so funny, in my 25 years of sharing with other people, the one thing most people can never conceive of, except those that are really starting to know themselves, is they can't conceive of how afraid they are. And if you even tell them that they're afraid, they say, I'm not afraid of anything. And that goes the same for fear's cousin, guilt. You can tell people that what's happening in their life is a direct response from their own guilt, and they say, I don't feel guilty, I have no guilt. But all you have to do is listen to them talk, and they'll usually catch themselves very quickly after that, proclaiming their fear and proclaiming their guilt. These are illusions. But unless we actually recognize the fear and the guilt that we're experiencing, then we won't be able to let those illusions go. And I think we'd all agree that it would be nice if we could live in a world that was totally without fear. The truth is, we can live in a world that's totally without fear. But only to the extent that we can recognize our own fear and go through the process of forgiveness to let the fear go. And so that's what we're doing. And it's so wonderful for me, when I think about it, to see myself as an illusion of healing and an illusion of forgiveness. I know how I see myself is not how I am truly. How I see myself is not who I am. But how I see myself is so much better than the way I saw myself in the past. Because in the past, I had more guilt. I had more fear. I had more areas of my life that I had to work on consciously. And that's one of the key things that we're all faced with when we start wanting to enhance and enlarge our experience here, is that we have to deal with our fear. We have to deal with our guilt. We have to deal with some stuff that we're carrying around. So we're learning how to forgive, and true forgiveness doesn't resemble how the world forgives. The world forgives completely different. The world forgives in a way that says, well, I'll forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. You know, I can forgive, but I'll never forget. And so we really don't forgive here. The way the world forgives is that it looks on something and out of charity forgives it, as if it's doing something to something else that is worse than it. In other words, when you look at somebody and you see them as worse than you, or maybe you might feel they're terrible, or they're not ethical, or whatever it is, you've already decided that they're not on your standard. But because you're the better of the two, because you're the good guy, you're going to forgive them. Well, that's not the kind of forgiveness. All that really does is state guilt is real in a different form. And that's all the world knows. And don't feel bad if that's how you do it, because that's all you know. You can't, I think one of the biggest mistakes we make here in this dimension is that we get so upset over our mistakes. We feel like that we're supposed to know everything and we're supposed to understand everything, but we're so far off the mark. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we don't know any better. We're learning. And humanity is in its very baby stages and learning. We're getting better and better at coming closer together, not separating, but we're still a long ways off from the realization of who that one human spirit is. We haven't got to the point where we realize that the whole of humanity is what we are. We're the spirit of the whole of humanity. And the only thing that makes it seem otherwise is everyone has the freedom to think themselves separate. And within this freedom to think themselves separate, well, then attack can be born, and it can be nurtured. Because as long as we're separate, we can teach those around us the same thing, and we can join in alliances against something. We haven't realized that we can't be against anything but ourselves here. We're the enemy we're so afraid of. So we're letting this separation go by, and we're learning it through forgiveness, but on a forgiveness that's based on something that actually works, to let go of the illusion of guilt. Because it's your illusion of guilt that's got you in so much pain. You couldn't condemn anything without guilt. There's no way you could be a condemning being, a being that finds fault in its world and the people in its world. You could not be that. And know what it is to forgive, to know what innocence is. So that's what we're learning. And the basis of our learning is we're realizing it's us that we're condemning. It's ourself. And if you can accept some basic premises that will be completely opposite to the world's teaching, one of which is that you're only seeing your own guilt. If you're condemning, it's because of a guilt within your own self. And that guilt within your own self is the guilt that needs to be healed. And how do you heal it in your own self? Well, you heal it by not condemning others. And when you get tempted to condemn somebody, you might want to stop and ask yourself, would you want to be condemned? Is that how you want to be treated? Even in your worst mistakes, wouldn't you rather be gently corrected? Wouldn't you rather have someone possibly with empathy in your experience who's been where you are and made that same mistake and can understand and tell you that, this was a mistake, but you're going to learn so much from it, and it's going to help you to make better decisions in your life? Because isn't that what it's really about? When you think about it, when it comes down to it, is the decisions we're making. And if our decisions are based on the illusion of forgiveness and the illusion of healing, then those decisions will be decisions that, after we make them, help lead us out of illusion entirely. So it's our decision-making prerogative. That's our last power. We seem to humor ourselves and think we have power because possibly we can build our bodies up and be strong, or build our bank accounts up and be strong. But you never can have a bank account that can't withstand a force greater than itself. We've seen many large corporations, Chrysler for one, in my lifetime, go under and need the government's help. So all of Chrysler's huge, vast amount of monies and everything didn't keep it protected from something that came in and wanted to start taking it down. What's that got to do with this? It's got everything to do with it, because you're going through your life, and we're all going through our life, thinking that somehow the way we've set it up, we've got some real protection. But there's too many people who have gotten hurt, lost limbs in the hospital, who know all of a sudden your life can change quickly. Any of our lives can change quickly. And the way our life changes is in direct proportion to the level and how much guilt we're experiencing. So if you could connect your pain with guilt, then you could possibly start seeing your own need for forgiveness in your life. Because whether you've done something which you're feeling guilty for, or you think someone else has done something that they should feel guilty for, or that you think they should be guilty for, you're still reinforcing the idea of guilt. And as long as you reinforce the idea of guilt, then you can't ever have any peace, because guilt and peace don't go together. Condemning and peace don't go together. Attacking and peace don't go together. So, okay, so you've already got on the path and you say, well, yes, I say I want peace. That's what I say I really, really want. Well, and then I turn around and I still find myself condemning, and I still find myself feeling guilty, and then I think that, wow, I can never do this. Well, don't forget, we're working in illusions. Don't forget that you are on your way to being an illusion of complete forgiveness and healing. But you can't be a complete an illusion of fear and healing on your way to being that. In other words, you're traveling not really with your body as far as moving your feet. You're traveling in consciousness. You're traveling in awareness of who you are, but mostly of what you want. And that comes back to that decision-making prerogative. That is truly your power. That's what you got left, because you can decide. You can decide how you want to feel about something, think about something. And if you can start connecting that your outer world is just reflecting your inner world, then you can start allowing your outer world to be a friend instead of your enemy. And so that when something seems to be attacking you, you can say, wow, this is showing me that on some level, maybe I'm not even aware of it, that I have some issues, I have some guilt. I feel that I'm unworthy. We are each other's healing. I know we'd like to give our great spiritual leaders and teachers through history a lot of credit, and I think we do owe them honor and respect, but the whole healing process happens between you and other people. Yes, every spiritual entity that's ever been, that has moved our progress forward into becoming loving beings, are at your disposal. They're all wanting to come through your life and help you and assist others through you. But yet it comes down to us and how we decide how to look at each other, how to think about each other, how to feel about each other. And I know myself that I'm far from the mark of always feeling loving towards people, always feeling appreciation and always feeling gratitude. But I am learning that is going to be the way that I turn this illusion that I experience of fear, this illusion I experience of guilt, into an illusion of forgiveness and healing. I was thinking about my past today and the cities I've lived in, and there's been some cities and places that I literally was celebrating to get out of. I was so happy to leave those places because I thought they were so terrible. And what I'm realizing that was that they were great for me, and I have to, if I can see how they really gave me a great contribution, even though at the time I may have decided that I'd had enough, but having had enough doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad place. A lot of times in your life, you are getting the impulse and the urge to move on with your life, that it's time to go. And you don't know how to do that except through condemning where you're at so that you can have an excuse to leave other than, oh, my time's up here. I don't need an excuse to leave. A lot of great couples and people in relationships do that. They really have a good relationship. It's time for them to move on because they don't know the divine plan for their life. And what ends up happening is they can't just move on and say, oh, we must be coming to a completion and we're moving on. No, we have to have a reason to move on. So we make up stuff to not like each other and fight and all that kind of stuff. So as I'm looking back at why I moved in a lot of instances of my life, I'm trying to generate some appreciation and gratitude so that I don't feel like, oh, I hated that place, I never want to go back to that place, blah, blah. These kind of thoughts are dispiriting. And what I'm learning is that every time I get dispirited, I get more that I have to usually forgive, more that I usually have to let go of, and more areas of healing. So it's best not to create that stuff in the beginning, but as I said earlier, we are moving from the point of being fearful, coming under the illusion of fear, coming under the illusion of guilt, coming under the illusion of attack, living in that type of illusion. Now we're moving to a new illusion called forgiveness and healing. And in that transitory time when you're coming from fear to forgiveness, well, no, you're not always going to be the illusion of forgiveness. You're going to hop back and forth. Sometimes you're going to be the illusion of forgiveness. You're going to be the illusion of healing, the illusion of joy, the illusion of peace, gratitude, and appreciation. But other times, you're also going to be the illusion of fear and guilt. And it's at those times that when you reaffirm to yourself your goal and your purpose, what kind of illusion do you want to be? Do you want to be an illusion of fear and guilt, or do you want to be an illusion of forgiveness and healing? Because as long as you're here in the body form, you're definitely an illusion. Because when God created you, he did not create flesh. When God created you, he created you as an eternal spirit. And that you can't change, even if you do want to detour into the illusion of fear. That's what we've done. We've detoured into the illusion of fear. We're coming out of that illusion. The way we've come out of that illusion is through the Christ. We're coming out of that illusion through forgiveness. Through that idea that nothing here is affecting anything at all, and the spirit that has detoured here is as innocent as it ever was. It just made a mistake. So we could walk around and tell all of our friends and loved ones, give them hugs, it's okay, spirit, you just made a mistake. You think you're a body right now, and that's all right. You wanted to experience a little fear. And bodies are a great place to experience fear. But when we start saying we've had enough of the fear, we've had enough of the guilt, we've had enough of not feeling good in the situations in our life and with the people in our life, and handling our own fear with each other in a way where we put on the defensive and the attack. Because as long as we're attacking or defending, we're coming from our fear. As long as you are feeling separate and you're seeing yourself as having separate interests than other people, then you're under the influence of fear. You're living under the influence of fear. And we should go and have to get arrested for that and be put in the peace place and have to learn peace for a little while when we do that. We have so much possibility right now to move into such a totally new dynamic of life and relationship with one another. But in order for us to do that, we have to let go of old archetypes, old paradigms, old ways we did relationships, that humanity's been doing relationships. We have at our feet the opportunity, all of humanity, to carry humanity into a very powerful, powerful expression of an illusion of forgiveness and healing. And once humanity comes under that illusion of forgiveness and healing, then the need for time, the need for bodies, the need for space is over. And then we can go back to our true function as creators in God's heaven. Because God created us in heaven, and that is where we remain. You never could leave heaven. You could believe that you did, and the only way that you could believe that you could leave heaven would be to believe that separation from heaven was possible. The only way that you could believe that separation from heaven was possible was that if fear could be, and if you could be afraid, then you could be separate from who you are, because you were never born in fear. You were never created in fear. You were created in love, and that's the way you'll remain. We have no choice in this. The only choice we have in this is whether or not we want to recognize it now or recognize it later. The price for not recognizing it now is you get to experience more days like you've been experiencing up until now. But, again, your last remaining power, what is it? Your decision-making prerogative. And your decision-making prerogative is very powerful. And you can decide otherwise. And you can decide to see things differently. Your life in a body has no value whatsoever. Every great master knew that. Every great master told you, don't take any thought for your body, how it's going to survive, what you're going to put on it. Instead, think of the spirit that you are and express, and live in the present with that spirit that you are, and extend out to other spirits that are part of yourself. That extension process is the most wonderful thing that can be experienced here. And in its highest form, that form of communication is totally wordless, has no words. You may not know this, but words were developed to disrupt communication. Words were developed so that we could be separate. Our energy, our spirit, our being needs no words to know that we are one with each other in all things. And that there's only one presence and one power, and it has no opposite. Only an illusion does it have opposite. But the only way it can have an illusion of opposite is with the idea of separation, which brings in the fear and the guilt. So as we start learning more and more that Nothing in this dimension is getting hurt for real. But we are experiencing an illusion of being hurt. And when we hang and cling to that truth that says that nothing real is really threatened right now, nothing that is real is being threatened, nothing that is real can be hurt. And then we can start reminding everybody, each and every one, nothing real is being hurt right now. Only the perishable. And the perishable we should have no concern over. Our spirit is so powerful that if we'll just focus on our spirit, it will rise above the form. That's what we want to do. That's what we're here to do. And the way we do it is through realizing how much gratitude, appreciation, and love we can have towards one another. We've still not even scratched the surface of how much we can love and appreciate each other. We could be having so much fun, every single person. We'll have to kick out all the dogma. We'll have to kick out all the religion. We'll have to kick out all the ideas and the rules, because our loving heart doesn't need those things. We don't have to be told how to love. We don't need to be taught how to love. We don't need anyone telling us about how to be what we were created to be. But we do need to remove all the blocks in our awareness, all the things that we set up to cause us to forget how loving we are, to forget how much power we have in our love. See, we think anger has power. As long as we think anger has power, we seem to see results from us being angry, we think that that's the way to go. But the results we get from our anger are totally destructive. They really don't move you ahead one bit. The only thing that gets true results is love. And love is something beyond our comprehension or anyone's, but we can get close to understanding it in our human form by just seeing it as appreciation and gratitude. You remember when Jesus said, love your enemies? Can you appreciate your enemies? Can you be grateful to your enemies? Can you be appreciative and grateful that the people who don't agree with you or who are trying to seemingly hurt you or keep you from something, that they're a blessing in your life? Because you don't know how they may be protecting you. You don't know how that slow driver who's causing you to be late from work is saving you from an accident. You don't know all the particulars. You don't know really anything, but you're trying to make these judgments on what every single thing means based on what you think you know. And you can trust me on this. What you think you know is like a grain of sand compared to all the beaches in the world. So it's not something you could really depend on as something to listen to judge your life. Listen to your love. Listen to your appreciation. Listen to your gratitude. Understand that all events, circumstances, and places that you're experiencing in your life, your protection is the highest order. I know the circumstances may seem different. And I know if you're like hungry in the gutter right now, and I tell you that's illusion, you'd rather me throw you some bread. And for me, I'd rather throw you some bread because I'd rather feed you first and then share with you how you got yourself in the gutter. That you're the powerful being that got you there. Because any situation you're in right now, you're the powerful being that got you there. And in that getting you there, also there was a force in your life that was using every one of those opportunities for your good, for your happiness, for your betterment. But chances are you've never been able to recognize that because you were too busy being disappointed about how things weren't going your way. And as long as you're so busy being disappointed about your life, trying to see what all's going wrong with your life, trying to figure out what you need to do next to have some kind of correction, then you're not going to see the real source of what's going on. Because all around you is good. All around you is opportunities. Thing is we're trying to get the wrong people to like us. You ever noticed yourself doing that? Have you ever noticed yourself trying to get an unforgiving person to want to forgive you? Because you might have done something that you're trying to sincerely let them know that you're sorry, but they just don't want to let it go. It's very uncomfortable. And you know how that feels. But yet, you'll persist on still trying to get them to come over and see what you're talking about, come to your side. Wouldn't it be much easier to go with the people in your experience that are willing to forgive you quickly? Wouldn't it be easier to go with the experiences in your life right now that seem to be supporting you and wanting to support you? But what if you've allowed your self-respect and your own self-esteem to drop so low that you don't think anybody could do that? Well, you probably need to get some help from some 12-step programs that'll allow you to do some hardcore exercises on going back into your past relationships and doing some heavy healing in that. But if you're like most of us and you haven't beat yourself up down to that level, then it's not that hard to turn it around, because you are powerful, you are wonderful, and you just have to keep telling yourself that over and over again. But the part of you that's powerful and wonderful does not condemn, does not react out of fear, does not react out of guilt. And so you have to call that part of you up into your awareness. You've got to call it forth. You've got to speak it into existence. You've got to speak this part of yourself that is wanting to forgive into your experience. You've got to speak it into your experience. You've got to think it into your experience, because it's got to replace the thoughts and the feelings that you're having to deal with now. I promise you, if you'll use your decision-making prerogative to always decide for forgiveness, always to decide for seeing someone as a call for love, that they made a mistake and all mistakes can be corrected, if you'll use that power of decision to keep moving you into those thoughts, yes, you're going to go off. Yes, it may take you a couple of days to come back, but you'll have enough pain. And the only thing that's going to really relieve the pain that you're experiencing in your life, the anger, the conflict, the hopelessness, is when you start wanting to change your mind and start forgiving and offering healing to everyone. Even if you think you're one of those persons who are too messed up themselves, that you couldn't forgive. Well, practice it. It gets easier and easier and easier. My name's John Christmas. We're running out of time. I'm so glad you tune in. It's every Monday night at 8:30. If you've got friends, tell them they can catch us on the internet at dctv.org. That's www.dctv.org. We're on at 8:30. I sure do appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, God loves you. So do I. You are worth consistent effort. Tell yourself that every day. You're a wonderful being. Good night.